Imagine um mundo onde você possa contar com gente que se dedica a fazer o seu mundo melhor. Gente que está presente quando você precisa de apoio, de confiança, de motivos para acreditar. Imagine contar com pessoas que te estendem a mão diante de seus maiores desafios e que se alegram com cada uma de suas conquistas. Pessoas que te compreendem, porque compartilham com você os mesmos ideais e a mesma missão. Pessoas que pensam além, por você, e que estão sempre atentas aos novos ventos, às mudanças inevitáveis, às estações que se sucedem, os engenhos do tempo. Pessoas que reduzem suas dúvidas e multiplicam suas conquistas. Pessoas que sabem que a vida não é só o vai ou o vem, mas o vai e vem que nos leva para o lá dos nossos planos e para o cá da nossa realidade. Imagine contar com pessoas que te ajudam a transformar o não em sim, as incertezas em possibilidades, os desafios em novos caminhos. Pessoas que caminham ao seu lado, mesmo quando o mundo impõe novas e inesperadas barreiras. Essa gente parceira, flexível e humana atende por um nome: FTD Educação.
Conte com a gente.
Conte com a gente.
Conte com a gente.
Conte com a gente.
Conte com a gente sempre.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Isabella. I'm a commercial consultant for StandFor, FTD. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. So today we have a session with a very interesting theme, right? So I'm very happy to see all of you here. And it's about it's around the bilingual realm, because it's about Lingua Franca, and this is a very important item to be discussed. So I'm going to read the introduction of the invite, and then I'm going to present our speaker, all right? So let's read. English as a Lingua Franca, or ELF, is any use of English among people from different cultures and language background. When looking at English through this perspective, we change the center of the language from the native speaker to all the 2.3 billion non-native speakers of English. In this webinar, we will discuss the theory behind English as a lingua franca and how it impacts the English language classroom, as well as show some practical ideas of how ELF can be part of your daily teaching practice. Okay? So, today we have as our speaker, Priscila Bordon. So she has been an English teacher for over 10 years in both public and private sectors, with experience from kindergarten to teaching in universities abroad. She holds a Master's of Arts in Global Englishes from University of Southampton. She's Chevening UK and Fulbright US alumna, both which allow her to research and teach. She's a teacher in teacher training at Colégio Santo Américo since 2019, and English as a Lingua Franca consultant for ELT publishing houses. So welcome, Priscila. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here and a bit nervous too, but I'm really happy to talk about one of my passions, that is ELF or ELF. For the people that knows it, we call it ELF or English as a Lingua Franca. So thank you, Isa, for the introduction. I'm just going to tell a little about me again here. Also, just to let you know, My presentation is in both Portuguese and English, so it's inclusive to all Brazilian English language teachers. And I'll be translanguaging as well during my presentation. That means that I'm going to be using both Portuguese and English, okay? So today we are going to talk about the challenges and the myths around English as a lingua franca. I bet a lot of people have already heard of English as a lingua franca for both good and bad because of BNCC, because of a lot of other reasons. It's a theme that is around the language teaching realm, English language teaching realm. We've been hearing a lot of English as a lingua franca. So what is that? How to do that and what that means for us as English language teachers. So that's why we are talking about the challenges and the myths, and not the challenges and other things, because the myths around it may impact negatively our practice. So let's start. So a bit about me. Is already presented a little about my bio. I've been working with English language teaching and being an English language teacher for a long time. And I'm very proud to have started my career in public schools. I was a public school teacher for about 5 years. And I love the impact I had as a public school teacher. We do impact our students. So a lot of my experience and what I'm sharing here is coming from that place of a public school teacher. And because of my work as a public school teacher, I had the chance to research my practice and understand my own teacher self more by teaching at Black College in the US. That's where I heard about language prejudice for the first time, and researching about global Englishes, so variation of Englishes, varieties, and English as a lingua franca. So what is that? What is English as a lingua franca? Let's go for that. No more enrolação. Let's go for it. Here, I'm going to show you a video. So I think Isa, someone can play the video for me. I just want you to pay attention for the questions and the words I have here. We are going to have a little discussion, or I'm going to throw some reflection questions here about the video. It's a video that can cause a lot of, how can I say, a lot of feelings. We can feel a lot after we watch the video as English teachers. So in the comments as well, you can comment what you feel about it, what you think about it, and we can discuss it together, okay? So Lauri, can you play the video for me, please?
Das hier ist mein Sektor. Das hier ist das wichtigste Gerät des Küstenwächters. Das Gerät und das Gerät. Überlebensradar.
Mayday, Mayday. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you... Over. We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
So we do have a lot of things to talk about in this video, right? Let me take a look on the comments. I don't think anybody commented about the video yet, but I have some things to mention here. I don't know if you can see my presentation now. I do have some words on my presentation related to this video, and I'm going to start a discussion about them. So one of the first words is context. So what do you think context has to do with this video? Just a minute. Let me share my screen. There you go. Yes. Context has a lot to do with it. Pronunciation, accent, failed communication, accommodation, native English. So all these words, they have a connection to this video. So in the comments, I want you to try to guess what these words have to do with this video. I'll give you a hint. I don't think having an accent or a pronunciation that fits the native model would have anything to do with this context of a Coast Guard having a Mayday warning. It's a video for a language school in Germany, and they are relying on the sound of the TH and how, if you don't know how to identify or say it, can impact communication. But let's think of the real world. Would that happen? Knowing how to do the TH sound or recognizing and identifying the TH sound, do they have like this sounds, the TH sounds, do they have anything to do with understanding a message? Can I consider this communication here? This example is an example of failed communication. But in real life, would somebody in the Coast Guard hearing "we are sinking" think that they are saying "think"? So that's what ELF is about. English as a lingua franca is knowing that your communication is above everything else. In like when we think of these ideas that are so part of our language teaching practices, like teaching some pronunciation that does not impact communication. So like lingering in teaching the TH sounds, for example. But this is a very superficial example, because ELF is about more than that, than pronunciation. But ELF started, English as a lingua franca studies, is started with trying to understand what kind of sounds impact communication and understanding. So the TH sounds are proved to not impact communication. This wouldn't happen in real life. So if I say think or think or think, the context is more important than the sound itself. So I wanted to show this, just kick off and explain how this started, how ELF studies started. Let me just go to the next. So ELF is any use of English among speakers of different first languages for whom English is the communicative medium of choice and often the only options. Sorry, Isa?
So, Priscila, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
So, like the accents are not important in lingua franca?
Good question. So it's not that they are not important. It's not like pronunciation is not important or accents are not important. It's more of like, how can I say? We need to value more of accents and kinds of pronunciation that may appear. Like, I can't say errors. I don't want to say mistakes, but this variation in pronunciation is common. And also it's affected by accent. So valuing this more than just let's correct it and erase it, because accent means identity. So my accent values my identity as a person that belongs somewhere. So I am Brazilian. I do have a Brazilian accent, and I'm not ashamed of it. And that's the mindset. Okay.
Yes.
So the in the video, for example, that we are just listening, it's not a question of accent. It's just like a matter, like in this video, they want to point that he doesn't know, because he's German, he doesn't know how to do the TH sound.
The TH
And that is a bad thing. That's bad. You can't
Yeah.
not know the TH sound. See?
All right.
And that's not true. Your accent is your identity. So, and it again, in English as a lingua franca research and everything that has been already written about it and researched, the TH sound does not affect your communication.
Exactly.
Does not affect your communication.
Yes.
And that's how ELF started. They started studying it from this premise. A partir disso, they noticed that the TH sounds, both of them, does not impact pronunciation or understanding or anything. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So here is the main definition of English as a lingua franca. That's any use of English between people that doesn't speak it as a first language. So English as a lingua franca is not a new English or a new variety like British English or American English. English as a lingua franca is how we use English. It's the way. And there's a researcher that says that ALF is not a thing. ALF is a way. So English as a lingua franca is the way you use English. And that's very important, because when you're using a language, you are including in this use your identity, your sense of self, your prejudice, your ideas and ideologies of the world, your beliefs, and that includes your accent, includes your way of speaking, the communication strategies you develop to communicate in that language. And that's the way you construct, you build on learning a language. So that's the definition, but there are many other definitions, and ALF is evolving, it's becoming something different every day, because it's very fluid. Sorry, let's see if it works. It's fluid and it's variable. It's changing every day. It's ever changing. So next. And o que eu tenho a ver com isso, basicamente? What do English teachers have to do with these ideas that come from big universities and professors studying this very fluid and variable? Because as teachers, we expect to teach things that are stable, and rules and grammar and preparing for exams. And that's our role, right? That's our role. We can't change it. We do have to keep doing these things. But if we consider, I'm just going to read it very quickly, but I'm going to expand on it. If we consider that numbers, it is more statistically likely that when our learners engage in communication in English, it will be with a non-native speaker, because they are in a larger number than native speakers. And I have here that the last time Crystal spoke about the number of non-native speakers in the world, it was 2.3 billion users of English that are non-native speakers. So yeah, that's a lot of people. So it's more likely for our students to speak with non-native speakers that do have accents They don't speak like a native. They don't follow the standard English rules. They sometimes don't even learn English in a formal way. They just use it. So, and one of the models of a non-native speaker for our learners in Brazil are their teachers. And we are not native speakers. We are Brazilians speaking English, and we do have our accents, our identities, our beliefs and ideologies, and nothing is neutral. And that's why English as a lingua franca is important, because that gives us power to be who we have to be and speak the way we have and we know how to speak. So we should, English language learning goals should be adapted from the traditional native speaker model to include non-native variations, for example. So what I'm talking here is not to start something new, to create something totally different from what we do, but we do have to include. It's English as the perspective of English as a lingua franca is of inclusiveness. It's including people, including perspectives, including a new way of seeing English in a global communication scenario. Sometimes many of our students are never leaving the country. They don't want to, they are not going to talk to Americans or British people, and they don't care for it. But they might work for an Indian company and they have to talk to Indian people, or they have to communicate with a company in Germany, or they have to work in a hotel and where they are going to. There are so many scenarios, and we do have to prepare our learners to encounter these many scenarios. And that does not mean that I'm going to teach 102 varieties of English. It means that I'm going to prepare them by helping them build communication strategies and identifying that the language is not neutral there, and giving them the power to acknowledge their identity as part of their accent, and that pronunciation is really important. They do have to learn how to pronounce things coming from a standard model. But if they can't say the TH sound, that does not mean that they're failed speakers or users. Eles ainda são falantes de inglês. That does not depend on how they say a sound. So I hope I'm making myself clear here, that our English as a lingua franca is about inclusiveness and not like changing one thing for the other. Let's just start all over and erase everything we had from, we have a lot of ELT practices that are very important, but we do have to rethink and reflect about some of them to include. Okay. And do you people, teachers there watching me, do you consider yourselves as a model for your learners? Do you think you are a model of English speaker? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear about you. Let's go next. Some important words within English as a lingua franca, and that you do hear a lot and read a lot. And I just wanted to bring these words here to make them closer to you, is that intercultural, it's important to understand their context, I think, more than anything else. So intercultural communication, communication strategies, intelligibility, variation, translanguage, standard language ideology, awareness, pronunciation, accent. When you research about English as a lingua franca, you do read and listen a lot of these words. So intercultural communication, for example, is talking to people from different cultures. And this may or may not include native speakers. Inglês como língua franca não necessariamente inclui desculpa, exclui nativos. Native speakers, they are part of English as a lingua franca users. They can use English as a lingua franca to communicate with people from different cultures, but they do have to develop some strategies to communicate. I'll give you one example of a communication strategy. Repetition is a strategy. And there are textbooks and course books now that include this perspective of teaching and practicing how to use some strategies. So repetition, paraphrasing, preempting strategies. I don't know, there are so many. And these strategies are also important, practicing them and having this as part of your class. So this is something that is very ELF aware. It's part of ELF, right? I see here a question like, could we say that Globish comes from this idea of ELF? Globish is actually something that is not included in ELF research. Globish is a marketing strategy, actually. Somebody created a new kind of English for business purposes, but it's not really something, it's more of a marketing and something to be sold. So we don't even include Globish as a variation of ELF or anything, because Globish is not something that's fluid and variable and came naturally as a communication tool. So ELF is something different. It's more of a view. It's how you see English, more than something static, algo que é parado e que não tem variação. Então, é mais uma forma como você usa o inglês. Então, quando eu falo inglês, when I speak English, in my accent, for example, that's a way of speaking English. If I speak English e vou misturando, isso é uma estratégia que se chama translanguage, é uma forma de se usar a língua, essas misturas. E ELF é uma dessas formas de se usar inglês. It's a way of using English for communication purposes and as also a lens to see certain topics in English language teaching from a different perspective too. It's a way also to break with standard language ideology, that only one standard variation is valid. And that's not true. And we do hear a lot of this in Portuguese about preconceito linguístico. It's something close to that, like how critically we see language. Então, é uma forma mais crítica de ver a língua, né? How you see language. English as a lingua franca is also that. How you see language. How you see variation and innovation in language. How our students use and play with it. So that is English as a lingua franca too. And there are two very key words. There are key words in English as a lingua franca, that is intelligibility and accommodation. Intelligibility is how you understand and make yourself understood. And that's not related to how you use standard language. It's how you use language and play with it to make yourself clear. And accommodation is a strategy used to make yourself intelligible. So when I accommodate, for example, now I am accommodating to a public that I can't talk to, that I'm not like in front of you to talk to you in a conversational way. So I'm speaking slower and trying to make myself clearer. So I'm accommodating to this context, to this way of presenting myself. And there are some other words like pronunciation and accent that I've already touched upon. That pronunciation is one thing, and it's important. It's part of language teaching. And accent is something else. You don't erase people's accent, because accent is part of identity, of self. Uh, I hope I'm making myself clear. Any comments or any questions, Isa? Does anyone have like something to say?
Yes, of course. It was very nice that you put all those words because, it gives you food for thought.
Yeah.
Especially, there is a word that I would like to include there, which is context,
Oh,
right?
yes. Mm-hmm. Yes,
Because
because I mentioned context earlier that I didn't want to put it here, but it's key. It's very important. ELF only happens because of context and because of who you're speaking with. So, for example, I'm speaking to you now. I know you're Brazilian, so if I throw some Portuguese words, you get it. But if I'm talking to my Italian friend, for example, and if I say some Portuguese words, he might not understand, and we are going like to be, what are you talking about? So, understanding context is very important. That's true. Thank you for the input, Isa.
oh, that's okay. Thank you.
All right. So now I have some points for reflection here that these points are part of the book that we are going to raffle today. So here I have a takeaway, like something to take from this slide, that is standard English is an unrealistic goal for learners and does not reflect the use of English in the world. And it really doesn't reflect how we use English. But it's a variation, it's something that you have to make your learners aware of. They do need to know standard English. So it's a one of the varieties that they have to learn and have to be in touch with. We just cannot just no, I don't want standard English anywhere, because we are teachers of English and we do have to rely on some stability, but it cannot only be it. Não pode ser só isso. Então, por isso que é sobre inclusão, sobre trazer mais perspectivas. And here I have a reflection question, and I really want you to participate in the comments. Can you recall what the English teachers you have had in your life have told you about English, the English they spoke? What do they say about their learning process to achieve proficiency? So, as a learner of English, going back before you were a teacher, or when you were in pre-service, when you're in college learning how to be a teacher, can you remember how your teachers, your professors, spoke about their experiences as learners? Or did you ever have this conversation with your teachers and professors? So write in the comments what is your experience talking to your teachers and professors. Okay, so let's go back here. And this is a very good question now. After I told you about like how we are changing things and how things like the world is changing, the world where we use English is changing, and we are trying to include other perspectives on English, what should we teach? What can we teach? Do we have to like throw everything away and start all over, like create something new? And no, you don't need to create something new. Teachers know their learners, right? We do know our learners. And we if we have as teachers a certain level of autonomy, and that includes knowledge of these new perspectives, like understanding this that I'm talking to you, and that there are other ways of communicating. If you have the autonomy also like to do different practices in your school, and I'm very lucky, I have always been supported by my coordinators and my schools. So if you do have this autonomy, this level of autonomy, you can introduce English as a lingua franca, not naming it, but you can include it in your practice and present these ideas to your students. So in the right way, like bringing different songs. I'm having like a different class, and I want to show my students South African song or Jamaican song, or show my students a different rhythm that is very common in Asia. I don't know. So including these perspectives of inclusiveness again. So you can also adapt your materials, create new materials, use authentic materials that are not native speaker based. So it's not throwing everything away. You don't have to throw everything away, everything you do, but you can start small. And my master's dissertation was about that, how you can embrace and resist English as a lingua franca ideas at the same time, because it's really difficult to change your practices like this. And we shouldn't do it like this. We have to understand what is happening first, and then start small, like small steps. Instead of showing a video of an American speaking, you try to find another video of a non-native speaker speaking English. It's small things. And I know there are a lot of insecurities when we do that. My students are not going to understand this person speaking. But we can start with some interventions. I always heard this saying, like, grade the task and not the test. So you do like easier tasks with a certain authentic video, for example, and then you start to grow on that and make it more challenging to your students. It's about adaptation, but you do need a level of autonomy to do that, and not only in the school, like having support of people, but an autonomy of understanding what you're doing. So you start local and small with your students, and then you start to grow on these ideas. And here I have 2 reflection questions again. Have you ever felt judged for the English you speak, or judged people's English as broken or bad? And why was that? I think that's something very common for us teachers, right? To come up with some variation of English when you're looking for materials and say, no, I'm not going to use that. That's bad English. My students can't have contact with that. And what about us? Have you ever felt judged by your accent? Have you ever felt that somebody was not taking you seriously because of your accent? Tell me in the comments too. And now, more of a teaching thing. Which materials do you think you might use in your classroom as authentic materials to promote a broader view of English as a lingua franca? So what kind of materials can you start exposing your students to? Because we do start with exposing. A gente começa expondo aos poucos com certos materiais, com música, com vídeo. Então, quais outros materiais? Which other materials would you expose your students to? Write in the comments too. I want to see what your thoughts are about it. Let me go to the next slide. And here, I have some questions I've already heard in my... Isabella?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. So
No
I
problem.
was going to comment on the previous slide that it was very nice for you to have, all the ideas how to practice this in class, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about, for example, advertisements,
Mm-hmm.
pictures of ads we have all over YouTube or on TV. And sometimes the advertisements, they play with English, right? Using
Mm-hmm.
ain't, for example, the expression ain't that is very used on songs. And
Mm-hmm.
so if the teacher shows the students how it really works in the real world, it's going to develop uh, a sense of English as a lingua franca, right?
Yes, yes. And also, like, if you think of English as a lingua franca as a perspective again, this includes so many kinds of materials, like anything that is authentic and not authentic, because a lot of people use the definition of authentic as materials created by native speakers of English
Hmm.
for
Exactly.
their contexts of use, like a menu in a restaurant, in an American restaurant created by native speakers. And in the book that we are raffling, I do bring another definition to authentic materials, and does not include only native speaker.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
Authentic materials is anything that is on the internet, for example, just as an example of somewhere we can find it. So
Yes,
anything that is created with English. So it can be
yes,
done by Brazilians. It can be something like advertisements done by, I don't know, Italians or Portuguese. I don't know. So anything that is created with that language is authentic. It's made within a context of use that is authentic,
and it's an
culturally
authentic
authentic.
communication, right? It's an authentic
Exactly.
communication,
Exactly.
right?
Once, some time ago, I used I was looking for materials for authentic materials, and I used email conversation I had, an email. Uh, I wrote in English to another Brazilian as authentic material.
Yes,
Within that context, that was authentic, right?
of course.
So yeah, so we are like this, we are throwing away authentic materials. It's not only about native speakers. It's
Exactly,
anything that is created with English, with that
exactly.
language.
And there is those particularities of each region, that brings English as a tool, but they have, right, their particular things. So this
Yes.
is very important for people to know, right?
Yes, because we are exposing our learners to also very culturally rich English practices. So we are including a cultural authenticity in our classroom. Not only
Exactly.
like language use, we can explore the cultural aspects behind this
Yes,
material. So thank you
exactly.
for the intervention, Isa. That
That's
was really
okay.
nice. All right. So, and here, just to finish off, I've heard these comments and these questions so many times that I wanted to bring them here. Um, so let's reflect on these questions together, okay? Se todo falante de inglês é legítimo, and yeah, all speakers of English they are legitimate. O aluno então tem permissão para falar de qualquer jeito? So that's a very common myth on ELF that is, então não posso falar de qualquer jeito. O importante é falar e se entender. And it's not really it. The intelligibility is still there. You have to make yourself understood and people have to understand you. Intelligibility is important, and intelligibility includes following certain patterns, not standards, but patterns of communication. So you can't speak the way you want. There are still rules to communicate. So in class, we do have to teach again. We do have to touch on certain things that are important for students. We still have to prepare students for exams. So how can I just like show students like different variations of English all the time? And I know, let's not study grammar. That's ELF is not about it. Not about it. It's about including a new perspective on how you see language and not creating barriers to your communication. And also empowering your student to communicate, not erasing their identity, because they can still show their own identities as they speak English. But that does not mean that they can only speak like in any way they want. Really, we do have to follow some patterns. They are important. Se todos os sotaques valem, como ensinar pronúncia? This question is so good. I'm not going to give you answers in depth because we don't have much time. But again, as I just mentioned before, accent is one thing, pronunciation is a different thing. Pronunciation is part of language teaching, and they are pronunciation aspects that are very important for intelligibility, and we can't just not teach them. Okay? But we can't teach pronunciation em detrimento do sotaque. Sotaque is still there. Accents are still there, and we have to mind them. Os pais e diretores de escola não entendem porque estamos ensinando inglês com pessoas falando com sotaque ruim or bad English. Well, it's attitudes, beliefs, they're still there. And people have different beliefs, ideologies, attitudes towards something like English. So it's all a matter of context and how you analyze your context and understand your context, and you can defend your ideas. And to do that, you have to understand what you're doing. So understanding ELF and everything that I just mentioned here is very important. So you can also make other people understand the point of showing different accents, for example, or different varieties. Ok? Já é difícil deles entenderem sotaque britânico australiano, que são nativos. Imagina querer impor um sotaque chinês ou francês. Again, English as a lingua franca is not about imposing something new. We are not doing anything new here. It's just a new perspective, a new way of looking at English. So we are not teaching Chinese English, or I don't know, I'm not teaching South African English or whatever English. I'm not teaching different Englishes. I am exposing them, including new perspectives, and empowering them so they can understand their own selves by their accent. It's not about imposing anything. We are not imposing anything here, okay? Mas se eu usar esses princípios, there are some principles to ELF, like intelligibility, accommodation, communication strategies, intercultural communication. They are all principles within this big area we call ELF. Meus alunos não vão estar preparados para os exames internacionais? Well, international exams, they are changing, and they are becoming more inclusive and they are becoming more mindful of ideas like English as a lingua franca. And life is not only about exams. They are part of life. They are part of school. That is life and part of life. And we do have to prepare them and expose them to standard native varieties. But it's not only about that. It's about including. Okay? I hope I didn't talk too much. I just want to end my presentation with this. I always end all my presentations with this little picture. So don't resist the change. Just embrace it, understand it, and try to make it small with the small steps. You start with small steps and try to embrace your own accent, your own English, your students' accents. And English as a lingua franca is about that, about inclusiveness, not about imposition or speaking any way you want. It's not about creating a new kind of English. We are not creating anything new. We are just looking at English from a different perspective that can help more than exclude how we are doing, like in the past, as students couldn't, I don't know, communicate without fear of making mistakes. So thank you very much. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Priscila. Very enlightening, you know. I
I
love this
hope you all
subject.
liked it.
This subject is awesome because it is exactly what we need in the world, inclusiveness, right? This
Yes.
is beautiful. Thank
Yes,
you
I hope
so much.
everybody liked it. And I do know you have some questions. I see the comment section was like going crazy here. So
Priscila.
we are going to answer some questions now, right? Hello. I think Isa
Acho
is.
que
Travou um pouquinho aí.
Yes, but
yes.
I can
Voltou.
see here some questions. I can answer them.
Yes. I would like just to remind you guys, if I may, Priscila, to tell you about the raffle. There's going to be a
Oh, yes.
raffle, right? So I want everybody to click on the link below the video. If you can't see it, you click on Mostrar Mais, you know. So there's going to be a link below it, and there is another link for a client survey satisfaction. A client satisfaction survey, uma pesquisa de satisfação. At the end, also you click, all right, and then you have to download it and put your name on the certificate. We have the certificate together with the client satisfaction survey. Thank you, Priscila. Sorry.
No problem. So I can see here I'm going up and down in the comment section. So I see Median. She mentioned the Germany guys should perceive that it's in asking for help. Media, I think it was a marketing thing here of the school, but because it was very clear because of the Mayday thing that somebody was asking for help. So in the real world, that wouldn't happen. I'm completely sure of that. And there are other clues there in that video that we know that wouldn't happen. He's a Coast Guard man. He was trained for that. He couldn't understand Mayday, so it's really weird, right? So let's see.
That's the context, right? That's the
Yes,
context.
context is very important. So I mentioned a little about Globish. Globish is not within English as a lingua franca or global English studies. Globish is also something created by a man in Europe, and he was selling it as a course, like a miracle solution for communication between people in the European Union. So it's not really taken very seriously in research because it's not natural. It was created by a person and imposed. And English as a lingua franca is not about it. It's not about imposition, and it's not a creation. It's a fact. People are using English in different ways, and that is English as a lingua franca. All right. So Mariana mentioned that at school, my teacher never talked to students about that. All they thought about was to teach grammar. I feel you. I know. I've been through that too. Camila, same here, Mariana. Never had this type of conversation. Beijo, Cami. She's my, she works with me. So thank you for the comment. Mariana as well. I try to avoid using bad English in class with my students. I tend to think they have to get in touch with the right kind of English. Well, what is the right kind of English? I don't know, like how to define that. They can be in touch with different kinds of English, even though we don't show them because the internet is here to stay, I think. So they are in touch with it, either we want it or not. So we can kind of include like the wrong kind of English, let's say. I don't know, reflection. We can reflect on that together. Mariana again, but that's the thing. If students are exposed to all sorts of English outside the classroom shouldn't we focus on what is considered standard and correct? I agree, Mariana, that's true. We do have to have some focus on the classroom. And when we teach, we have a role to fulfill. We do have to teach some rules and some standards and some patterns, but we do have to reflect on what kind of English we are teaching, in the sense of how critical my students, my learners will be if I include or not include certain things in my classroom. Because I do want some critical speakers as well, not someone to speak thinking that they are speaking the correct kind of English. I want students that they can think for themselves and reflect on the English they're speaking. But also, again, in ELF research, we don't impose any ideas. So it's a matter of reflection. So if you don't believe in that, if you think that's not the right time, it's not the right way of doing it, you are the teacher, you know best. You know the time to do stuff. You know that. Let's see. Some people asking about the raffle. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Context is all. And I think that's it. Any other questions? I don't know if they have any other questions, Isa.
Yeah, I don't think so. I have read everything also. I think there is no more questions. But you said it all, in practice, in class, teachers know best, like they have the grammar side or the English side, the CLIO side, and but they know how to contextualize everything in the class. And there is a moment where you can show the variation and see, so is that wrong? Is that right? What do you think, students? And then make them think that there are other people in the world who speak English, and it is not the correct, right?
Yes,
English.
it's really hard to say what is correct, what is incorrect, because
Exactly.
if we think of like native speakers, for example, as models, can we really say what is correct or not? That's
Exactly.
really difficult. Or
Right.
even if we follow the standard, that's also difficult because, well, let's think of our context here in Brazil of teaching Portuguese. And we do teach Portuguese following standards and standard Portuguese, for example.
Yes.
But don't we expose students to like different kinds of music where they speak a different kind of Portuguese? So we are have for criticality, to build on criticality and making them critical and understanding the way they use English in different contexts. Shouldn't we do that in English too? Like leaving this kind of neutral zone of English, right? This very white neutral zone of English. So
Exactly.
that's
Right.
it. So what is correct? What is appropriate? What is that's we have to question all these words.
Yes, I think the important thing is to communicate and understand. Like you said,
Yes.
awareness. If you are aware and you observe, you communicate, that's the real deal.
Yes. So communication, intelligibility, accommodation, all this Asian, they are very important for English as a lingua franca, as a perspective. Again, English as a lingua franca is a perspective, is a pair of glasses you wear to see things differently. That's all it is. It's not a new variety of English.
Yes, very good.
So I think that's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
Priscila.
Thank you. I
No,
hope you
thank
all
you.
liked it. And I'm curious to know who won the raffle.
Yes, Laurie is gonna raffle now. I think everybody has. Thank you, Priscila, so much again for everything, And we're gonna raffle now. Laurie, can you do that? She's gonna put the screen here where the raffle is gonna happen right now, live. So these are the names. I don't know if you can see it. So everybody who put their names. So she is going to raffle now. Prepare yourselves. And let's see. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All righty. The names are Paola, Patrícia, Ana Paula, Pier Paolo, Patrícia, Ana Paula, Simone, e Miriam. I'm going to repeat the names. I'm sorry, Pier Paolo. I think it's Pier Paolo. Patrícia, Ana Paula, Simone, and Miriam. So what's going to happen now, guys? Your consultants, your English commercial consultants are going to look for you through email or WhatsApp messages, and they're going to talk to you about how they're going to send the material, the book, raffled to your house, okay? It can be, the consultant can leave the book in the school or send it to your house, okay? So I want you to talk to your consultant and receive your lovely book written by Priscila. And there is another link at the bottom below the video, which you can write about your satisfaction survey. It's very quick. And then you download it and put your name on the certificate. There is a certificate at the end. Okay? Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for a lovely evening with Priscila and talking about such an important subject as Lingua Franca. Bye-bye. Good to see you all.